Hey there, welcome to the video. This is going to be the first video of the Manager Series. The Manager Series is learning how to lead and manage and be a supervisor, as well as tips and tricks that you can use to address different situations, how to communicate, how to carry yourself, different things like that. This first video is just basically an introduction. You are now a supervisor and a shift leader, and so we're going to learn how to do those things. But we're also going to look at, kind of just the basics. What is a supervisor? What is a manager? The next video is going to be communication. And so how you're going to carry yourselves. The goal with these first couple of videos is just kind of reorient you to take you from being a regular employee to a supervisor in the way that you carry yourself, the responsibilities that you have. And so you're in the mindset already going into it that, that everything I do now matters immensely. But I also need to be able to carry myself in a way that my staff can look at me as a leader and a supervisor rather than just like, oh, it was just this person last week, and the way that we carry ourselves and can communicate with them. We're not going to be pompous and power hungry and stuff like that. And so we want our aura, essentially, when we walk in our presence to not our presence to demand respect, not for us to demand respect. It's just going to be something that we're going to earn, but as well as it's going to be implied in the way that we carry ourselves to show that, hey, like I do have responsibility now. And so I want you guys to kind of understand my background in Shivers and to understand that you are taking over that role that I used to fill exclusively. I used to be one of the only, actually at one point I was the only manager at Shivers, and I worked every single shift, every single day. And so doing that, though, I was able to cultivate a culture inside Shivers, an atmosphere, and kind of my background. I worked here when I was 16, and I did other things too, and I kind of worked my way up. There wasn't really supervisors and leaders back in the day, and it showed because Shivers actually foreclosed because there was no goal, and there was no one really seeing that out. So every shift was ran differently. Some of them were just, we show up and it's just whatever happens, happens. We didn't care about quality and customer service. My shifts did, and I had a core staff that loved working with me that were also interested in creating something special. But unfortunately, we had a bunch of anchors. That's why I don't like anchors these days. And you'll hear me talk about those that were dragging us back. Eventually, the bank took the business back from those owners and another guy bought it. He looked at Shivers and he decided to reopen it. And he looked at me and he found my name on a phone list that he only had because he only had my name because he had asked it once because he wanted me to run one of his little Caesars, just coming through as a customer, which I respectfully declined. But he's had me reopen it for him. And then after that, I started running Shivers. And so, through that, we started building a new culture. We completely revamped the menu, the products, all of our ordering, everything, nothing, anyone that worked prior to 2012 could not work in 2012 because I revamped everything. And so you're kind of stepping in to now where I can't, because now we're growing the business, and that's what I want to do. I want to provide opportunities for my employees. So I want to grow the business. I want to expand so other communities can, enjoy Shivers, the joy of it. And that they can't enjoy that unless we have the staff that's providing that and the leaders who are cultivating it. So that's what you guys are stepping into. That's expected from you. So I expect from my supervisors that at the end of each shift, Shivers has grown a little bit. We've created a new smile. Someone's on our staff has learned a little bit something. And I want to be able to create a place where they can do that, where they can learn something, where they can take skills onto their future, whether their future be at Shivers or be at another career. We want to grow our staff. And so that's kind of what I did. I did that until 2014. The previous owner had tried selling it to me many times, but no bank would give some broke college kid money to do this, to purchase it. I mean, I did the job for 75 cents over minimum wage. That's what I got paid to run Shivers and completely revamp it and turn it around. And I had to clock out at 40 hours a week because there's no overtime. But eventually one day I'm sitting there, not knowing what exactly to do with my life. Do I keep on doing this? I had made a decision in my heart that I was going to do my best at Shivers, that either one, it would do really well, be very successful, and hopefully I'd be paid for that, or that I could take that experience and that resume on to somewhere else. And so I found myself just, telling God one night, and I said, well, okay, whatever happens, happens. I put my trust in your hands, Jesus. Let's see what happens. And then a bank called me a few hours later and said, hey, I hear you're trying to buy Shivers. And in 24 hours, I owned the place. So a little bit wild of a story there. And from there, I lost money for 4 years straight. I'm just trying to make things work. sold pretty much every single thing that I had and kept funneling it into Shivers until, we turned the place around. People started noticing us. And the one thing that they always noticed was our employees, which is why employee management, being a leader and a supervisor, is the most important job here. Because we can train anyone to make desserts. We've got good product. We need someone to oversee that and then oversee the customer interactions that we have with them and the way that we treat our customers and the atmosphere and the culture that we create. That's why being a supervisor and a leader is so important. So you're stepping into that role now. And so I expect Shivers culture and Shivers atmosphere to permeate in every shift that you run. And I expect our community to feel that and see that. So I need to be able to see it. The community needs to be able to see it, which is why these videos are so important. So you understand what's expected and you get all the tips and the tricks and the ideas to be able to go and incorporate that in the way that you run your shifts. But know that it's always a learning experience. I'm still learning, and we always need to drive ourselves. We don't want to just set a bar and hit it and be like, hey, I made it. We always want to be raising that bar. And so, we can either pull the people up with us that are relying on us, as well as, competition. When they try to meet one of our bars, they get there, we're already up on the next level. And so know that there's always learning to be done. We're not shift leaders because we made it. We're shift leaders because I believe that you have what it takes to be able to learn and grow. And then hopefully you help the business do that too. And so we'll kind of jump into this really quick, just real basic stuff. What is a supervisor? What is a leader? Especially if you're, this whole concept is very new to you and you haven't had this responsibility, let's say in another job or whatnot. Let's kind of get into the basics of it so you kind of understand. Let's jump in. All right. So I got over here, I got some notes written down. This is stuff that, the world says a supervisor and a manager is, as well as Shivers. And we'll kind of talk about what that is and then how we perceive these things here at Shivers. And so what I got here first is, what is a supervisor? So a supervisor is a person who oversees and manages the work and performance of employees or team members within an organization. So the organization would be Shivers, and then you are the supervisor. And so I've got these words highlighted because there is a difference between them. Overseeing and managing. And I kind of want to talk about these two words here for a second. And I actually have, I believe we've got some notes here. So to oversee means to supervise or monitor activities to ensure that they are carried out correctly, often with a focus on compliance and quality control. So if we stop right there, the difference between, or not the difference, we'll talk about oversee. Overseeing is kind of, and I'll talk about this when we're talking one-on-one sometimes, is you gotta kind of take a step back on your shifts and you got to look at it almost from a bird's eye point of view. And that way you can make sure you're just overseeing, are people in the proper positions, right? Because that's going to help out a lot. But do you need to pluck people and move them in different positions to make things work a little bit better? Maybe there's training that needs to be done. So I might, move this person over there, but I'm always looking at it from bird's eye point of view to make sure people in the right positions, if I can move them around at all, as well as making sure I'm overseeing, the production of the product. When we talk about compliance and quality control, when it says that, we're seeing, are the rules and regulations being followed? Are the correct toppings, in these desserts? Different things like that. So it's really just very specific things and like, okay, this is the rules. This is how we make desserts. This is how we talk to customers. Okay, are all those things being done? How can I move stuff around to make it happen? I'm just kind of overseeing those things. That's one part of the supervising. The other part of the supervising is to manage. So to manage involves planning, organizing, leading, and controlling resources and tasks to achieve specific objectives. Okay, so how is that different from overseeing? Well, overseeing again is like, hey, let's make sure we're doing this correctly. I'm looking at it. Do I need to move anything? Do I need to, see something that's an issue and correct it to make sure everything's being met, to make sure quality is good, to make sure customer service is good. Again, quality can mean customer service and or product. So is the quality of the service good? And how am I going to, what's the next step? Well, the next step would be managing those if I do need to correct anything, more on a leading aspect. And so, leading is a big thing. If we kind of look at this a little more, in contrast, manage involves planning, organizing. You have to be strategic about the way that you manage. You can't just come in and react to everything. You can't come in without a plan on your shift, right? A lot of your planning and your organizing is going to be routine. You come in on a night shift, you're going to be immediately wondering, okay, how's my topping bar look? How's my fountain look? How's my custard look? How much vanilla do I have? How much chocolate, strawberry, flavor of the day? How much did you go through today? And so I can kind of plan out, okay, do I need to make custard now, later, flavor of the day? Do I have the ingredients for the flavor of the day? Are my baristas stocked on their milks? What are we out of? So you can come up with a plan. Say if we are out of something, here's the plan and here's the script, and this is how we're going to carry it out to my staff, right? And so you can't just come in and just expect, that when something comes up, you'll take care of it. That is being a regular employee. Things come up all the time, and how am I going to roll with the punches? Being a supervisor is I'm going to manage these things, okay? I need to be able to know who needs training and how am I going to carry that out on this shift. You can't just decide, oh, I'll put this person on register 1 and we'll see what happens. It goes, okay, what is their training going to look like on my shift? And what plan is in place that if we get slammed and they can't quite keep up with that, who do I have to step in that position? What position is that person going to step in? And then what effect is that going to have on my topping bar line and how everything flows so I don't have melted desserts, but there's a lot of planning going involved, and you can't be reactive to that. You got to be proactive on that. So planning, organizing, leading is a big thing. Leading is just an entire different beast on its own, and we're going to learn how to be an effective leader in a later video, but you have to know that there is a difference, and we'll talk about that in this video. Controlling resources and tasks to achieve a specific objective. Resources can be all sorts of things. Resources can be your staff. It could be, obviously, the iPads. It could be the actual tangible resources of paper products and food products, and the custard machines are resources. And how are we going to use all of these? The internet is a resource. If you don't know how to do a specific task or a coffee that someone asked for, can you use the resources to achieve the objective, which is creating an awesome experience for our customers? And so again, it takes planning. It takes knowing that where your shortcomings are, and then what your strengths are, and then being okay with both of those, utilizing them, and then figuring out, okay, how do I complement my strengths with someone else's strengths to make the shift work? Because you don't have to be the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable person on the staff. Now, you would like to be the most knowledgeable so people can look up to you as that source of knowledge. But if you're worried about other people having those things over you, then you're going to fail as a leader. What you need to do is be able to know that and utilize those, empower them to be involved in the process, but as well as, and some of the best leaders, and again, now I'm getting into too much leading, but the best leaders are those who are able to pull together a team to achieve an objective that otherwise wouldn't be achieved if everyone was out on their own. So you don't have to be the smartest. You just have to be able to control those resources and those peoples to be able to achieve the specific task. So essentially encompassing a broader scope of responsibilities beyond just supervising or supervision, which would be overseeing. Okay, so we're just on the first sentence. So I hope you're bearing with me here. And so, I'm going to oversee and manage the work and performance of employees or team members within an organization. Work refers to the tasks and activities undertaken to achieve a goal. Our performance is the measure of how effectively and efficiently those tasks are completed. There's going to be some callbacks in later videos, and this is one of those ones that is very important. The difference between effectivity and efficiency. And that is under our performance here. So there's one thing is the work, which is just the tasks and activities that we undertake to achieve the goal, making desserts, right? Taking orders, cleaning, closing jobs, outside jobs, different things like that, putting away the orders. These are just tasks and activities. And so we're overseeing and managing that. So overseeing is just, bird's eye view, making sure it's getting done properly. Managing is training, planning, organizing, making sure things are routed the correct way so that they're done basically effectively, which is then more into my performance. So I'm overseeing and managing the performance. So I'm making sure the performance is good. I'm overseeing that, making sure that desserts are made with quality, make sure customer service is Shivers service. The experience is blowing people away and making them feel like this is a special place in the world, as well as, all of our other tasks that we're doing to make sure they're being done effectively and efficiently, which are two different words. And we'll talk about that in a later video. But to sum it up is being effective is achieving our goals in the way that we want to achieve them, not just to achieve a goal, but to achieve it the way that Shivers wants to achieve it. And efficiently is doing that in a manner to where the business operates in a profitable way. And so a supervisor to sum all this up, which we're going to talk about a little bit more of it, is to, we're just overseeing, managing the work and the performance. So once you understand there's a lot going on here, you're not just showing up and counting money like the supervisors when I first started that ran Shivers out of business. We are overseeing that work to make sure it's done correctly and managing it, making sure that we have plans in place and we're leading and we're controlling those things to cultivate cultures, to create good quality products, to help our customers in a way that blows them away. I'm actually involved in that. I'm not sitting back and going, well, that person needs some work. I'm getting in there. I'm getting in the trenches. I'm working with my employees as a part of leading by example, but I'm taking these things seriously because they directly affect my employment as a supervisor. To kind of expand just a little bit more on some of the responsibilities you'd expect as a supervisor is, you're responsible for ensuring that tasks and projects are completed efficiently and effectively. We kind of just talked about that. Supervisors often provide guidance, support, and feedback to their team. Again, we're not just always going to be reactive or be proactive, but we're not just coming in and overseeing. We are making sure that people are growing, that Shivers is growing, our employees are growing, and therefore, hopefully, by that, our community can grow too. And that is something that Shivers has done in the past. It has driven commerce to the area of Godfrey. And, we were one of the businesses that, that really drove the growth on Godfrey Road and helped, build that. And we've got awards from Godfrey, from the city of Alton, from the area in St. Louis too, to kind of prove that just when we're just one location. And so, but that guidance, that support, and that feedback is what's going to help our employees grow. And that's the base, right? That's the foundation of having a community grow, is we need to support and guide and help our team grow. And so that guidance is through, there's training, there's supporting your staff on their shift. There's not just saying, go do this job. You're supporting that job. So all these jobs are ultimately your responsibility, all the stations and everything like that. And so you can't have someone fail on your staff, no matter what the situation is, whether it's someone who dislikes you or really likes you, or it's someone who maybe not be great at that job, or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter, because ultimately if they fail at their job, you fail at their job. So you want to be able to support them. You want to be able to support your headsets outside when it's hot. What are we looking at that? Well, now we're looking at safety. And it's like, I'm going to support you because I'm going to make sure that you can come in and take a break. Therefore, you can go out and still provide awesome customer service and not be overwhelmed. Little things like my dipper. I'm going to make sure that your scoops, I'm planning ahead. Again, you're managing that shift. I'm going to plan ahead, and I already have a something in place to where your scoops are going to be switched out. And so you can just continue scooping without the stress of a mess and, drippy cones and things like that. And those are just really small details that you can support your staff in many different ways, supporting them in a way that, if they do become overwhelmed or with difficult customers or whatever it may be, you're there. If I need to run flavor in a flash, I'm not just saying, hey, you got to make flavor. It's like, okay, I got to go. I still got to manage the store, but I'm also going to support you. And let's get this started, so I don't have to sit there and be like, why don't we have flavor yet? And them going, I'm trying. I'm going to support them. Feedback to your team. I think you're going to learn how to give feedback when it comes to missing the point, when our employees miss the goal, let's say. And so if you have an objective, and it is to, we're going to, this is where our ticket times are going to look like tonight. This is the quality and the customer service going to look like. And they miss that, that feedback is going to be easy, because you're going to see something they did wrong. You're going to go, all right, we need to correct this. But positive feedback is even more important, because a lot of people will do the correct thing at least once at Shivers. And if you don't call it out, they may miss it. They may say like, oh, well, I did it this way, but, that person's doing it that way. So maybe, why am I putting this work in whenever I can just do it like that? So you let them know, hey, no, I appreciate you doing it correctly. Okay. And in your mind, it's like, I'm going to take care of that person. But I appreciate you putting in the effort and the good work. And so if they have good customer service, they make good flavor of the day, the custard is a good quality, you call those things out. Say, hey, well, whatever you're doing right now to make these buckets of custard, this custard it's hard, it's creamy, it's making good concretes. Whatever you're doing over there, try to think of that and keep that up, because that's awesome. Hey, great with that customer. I loved how you handled that family with those kids. That was fantastic. Keep that up. That is the goal. You are hitting the goal right now. of Shivers. That is just fantastic. You've given them the feedback and they go, okay, and they realize that things are doing good, and so they do those more often, which then will actually, they'll do the incorrect things less because now they're figuring out the correct way. And so though the positive feedback is way more important than negative feedback, which you do have to correct people on certain things, but if you can give them positive feedback and give them a direction to walk, they're going to start heading in the correct direction rather than just keep on saying, well, you just kicked that rock and you stumbled over that. What are you doing? It's like, set them on the right direction. And then we can kind of, if they get too far out of the bounds of like, hey, we don't talk about those kind of things at work and the rules and regulations, we can do that. So helping to resolve any issues that arise and ensuring the company policies and procedures are followed. We're going to learn about this in our communication video of how to deal with different issues that arise with staff. But this is also talking about how to roll with the punches, I guess you could say, and to be able to problem solve in the middle of the shift, no matter what that issue is. A drive-through stopping up, a customer machine going down, whatever it may be. How am I going to immediately solve this problem from like a micro standpoint? So like problems happening right now, we can't just all stare at it and go, oh, what's going to happen? It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do for right now. And then let me get to the macro. Let me figure out how, that we're actually going to get this problem officially solved right now. An example could be that, we're out of pecans. And so we can't sit here and be like, well, let me call Brian and let him know we're out of pecans. And what do you want to do about it? Well, I don't know. Let me see what he wants to do about it. You have to take care of that problem right now because pecans, people order that a whole lot. So what is it? Well, hey, all right, we're out of pecans. Let me notify everybody. This is the script we're going to go with. We're going to go with, I'm so sorry, we're sold out of our pecans, because rather than just saying we don't have any pecans, because it's like, oh, that's weird, it says it on the menu. We're sold out of pecans, showing that we do have them, but they're popular. We don't have them right now. We're sold out of pecans, but we do have some alternatives. I do have my candy-coated pecan, as well as my roasted almonds, which are kind of roasted like those pecans. Would you like to substitute either of those for that? And that's your staff saying that. So you're giving them a script. You're ensuring that it's happening, right? And so we're going to plan. We're going to strategically say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to oversee to make sure that's happening. And then we can kind of take a step back. Once that's immediately fixed, reach out to me. Hey, we ran out of pecans. What do we need to do about that? And then we can decide to go from there. But you need to take care of the problem now. So it's not just employee issues, which we'll talk about in the communication video, but it's also just any problem solving that you need to do. That is your job to resolve that immediately. And then also macroly. So again, we can come up with another example with employees. If an employee has an issue, it's not going to be like, well, let me just listen to you talk about it. It's like, oh, you have an issue? Let's get this taken care of. Do we need a meeting with Brian? What do we need to do here? I'm not just going to be like, oh, that's going on, and then tell Brian about it later. That's not resolving an issue. That is having someone else resolve the issue. Again, your job is to resolve the issue, right? So as we continue on here, they're also involved in training new employees. And training starts, obviously from the first day they're here. I would say the first 2 weeks, anything that they've already learned, let's say the first 2 weeks after they learned any task, they should never do that task unsupervised. Doesn't mean you have to do it for them, but they should never do it unsupervised. There should be some sort of overseeing of what's going on so we can do training in that. And then after that, it takes about 6 months to become an effective employee at Shivers. So know that, and don't ever just sit on the back foot and be like, well, that person's going to go off and do that. It's like, are they providing Shivers service? Because again, if they're not, if they're failing at something, if you're not supporting them and giving that guidance, right, and that feedback and that training, if they fail at anything, that's you failing at it, right? So it reflects directly on your supervising and managing skills. Conducting performance evaluations, there are forms. You'll learn how to do those and give those. And facilitating communication between management and staff, right? So that's management is, there are steps above you, and then there's ultimately, right now, there's me, right? And so if we come up with a plan to do something, a new product, whatever it may be, I'm going to let you know, and it's up to you to face communicate that with your staff, make sure they're on board, make sure they understand, make sure they're effective at it. So overall, supervisor plays a crucial role in maintaining productivity and cultivating a positive work environment, right? So again, we're going to do culture and atmosphere in another video, but it is up to you to cultivate that, right? To take new employees and current employees and cultivate it, which takes work. Cultivation takes work. It's not something where it's like, well, hopefully this plant will grow. If someone watered a plant and gave it to you, you're not going to go, well, they watered it, so that should be good, right? It's going to take work consistently to watch it grow, because if you don't, the alternative isn't it's just going to stay the plant that it was given to me. It's going to die, right? So you have to continually cultivate that to ensure that it is going to be a positive work environment. We're going to leave on an outline of this video some more information about managing, so you can kind of read through that when you get the time. I will say, you do have to put time in on your own time to be an effective manager, supervisor, and leader. We're going to talk a little bit about leading right now, but you have to put that time in on your own. You're not just going to be able to come in. Again, you can't be a reactive supervisor. To be able to be an effective supervisor, you have to be able to learn these things, grow, expand your knowledge, try new things, rather than just coming in and reacting to the way everybody does everything. And so go ahead and read, over those, watch this video multiple times, take down notes. There are a lot of different statistics out there, and they're all a little bit different, so I'm not going to quote any of them exactly, but the true is the same about 100% of the time, is that if you, watch something and take down notes, you're going to retain more information. If you watch something, take down notes, and then go back over your notes, and then also rewatch that, you go up to almost 90 to 95% retention of all of that information. So put the time in yourself. These videos, all of them you're going to watch. You're going to watch one. It's going to be like your first day at Shivers. You're going to watch it, or you're going to come in, you're going to do your orientation, you come in your next shift, and you're going to be like, I don't know what's going on here. It's going to take repetition. And then if I go back and I talk about, hey, these are the amount of toppings you put in things, and this is the calculations to put toppings into concretes. When do you know to scale back, what to scale back on, different things like that, how much to scale back on. It makes a lot more sense after you've worked here for a month. And so come back to these videos as you're leading these shifts. And you do have to put that time in on your own if you want to grow and be an effective leader. And so, but take down notes, different things like that. Come back, read the outlines, whatever it may be. So we're getting on here to what is a leader. So being a leader, I would say, is the single most important asset to you to be an effective manager and supervisor. If you think about it, almost every single business in the world has a manager and a supervisor in any capacity, whoever it may be, from the top to the bottom, just team leaders, things like that. People just, maybe not even be considered supervisors, just like, hey, you're in charge today. They all have that. And so, a lot of times we call them, like shift leader, right? And so why do we use the word leader? The difference between, say, Shivers and other businesses is that we take this leader aspect, the shift leader aspect, and we put a lot of emphasis on it, because that is going to be ultimately the difference between if we're growing and becoming a landmark in the area or not, right? We have good quality product, and that's great, but how are we going to present that product? How are we going to get our team interested in presenting in a way that it goes like, hey, you are at somewhere special, like selling ourselves? And how is your customer service going to be, and just the way that we carry ourselves, and getting a team that's going to work for you rather than, you just trying to manage them all the time. They're going to want to work for you. Getting someone to want to do the job correctly and want to do it when you're not around is going to be the result of having a good leader. No one wants to come in and just do work, right? But if you have people come in and do want to do the work for you, and for Shivers, that means you were a good leader. So we'll kind of jump in and talk about what a leader is. So a leader is someone who guides, inspires, and influences others to achieve a common goal or vision. Unlike managers who focus on the processes and the systems, leaders are more concerned with motivating and empowering people, right? And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. There are managers who manage, they make plans, hopefully being a leader is part of management. We talked about that because that's what we require out of our managers. But, we'll make plans, we'll oversee, we'll make sure things are done correctly. But if you can motivate and empower people to want to do those things correctly and want to help Shivers grow, to step out of their own comfort zones, to be able to give their input, to be able to maybe do things that we have never required them to do for customers, but they do it anyway. Someone going out to wipe down tables, it's not really required to, see how customers' desserts were, and to pick up, hey, are you done with that cup? You mind if I get rid of that for you? I'll clean this up for you guys. And, would you guys like some waters? It's not something that we essentially train. We train the culture of that. We want them to be able to do that without us asking. And so being able to motivate and really inspire them to do that on their own, that is being an effective leader, right? And so a manager is just overseeing, making sure we're doing the things correctly, planning and trying to grow the business, which would be, obviously you want to be a good leader if you want to be a good manager. And so all these things intertwine, but I want you to understand the leader aspect a little bit different than just managing. And so we require our supervisors to be leaders, right? That's why we call them shift leaders. That's why you're a shift leader. We require you to be a leader. So you have to do the managing, the supervising, but you have to learn to become a good leader. And so we're going to talk a lot about that in videos and one-on-ones. And so we're going to learn and grow. It's one of those growth things we're talking. And so what are some of the key characteristics of a leader? Visionary. Leaders have a clear vision of what they want to achieve and can communicate this vision effectively with others, inspiring them to work towards it. And so this is kind of goes along with managing. You have to have a goal. You have to have a plan to get there. And you have to be able to communicate that vision to your staff. I call it the why. So why are we doing the things we're doing? Why is customer service so important? Why is quality so important? Why are these words, important to say and not to say? Why is it important to look like we're do that work with the windows around? There's all these different whys. You got to be able to communicate that to the staff, and you have to understand it yourself. So you have to have a clear vision of what the goal is, and to be able to communicate with that to staff, and then inspire them to want to work towards that goal with you. Some more here. Let's see if I get on the right thing. Influential, to possess the ability to influence, persuade others, gaining their trust and respect through their actions and words. So, when these kind of words, and I'll use these words sometimes, influence, persuade, and I don't want it to make it sound like tricking people. That's not what we're talking about. To be able to influence, persuade others through your actions and words and respect, and gaining their trust, that's being an influential person, right? So if you think the difference between influence and persuade, sometimes they'll sound like we're going to trick them into doing things. And I'll kind of explain, but when you think of the word influential, you're not thinking tricking. You're thinking that person's a very influential person, right? They command a lot of respect. People like to follow that person, right? They go, okay, yeah, because they trust them and they respect them. They're an influential person. And so to influence and persuade people, it is still strategic. To be a leader, you have to be strategic. You're not just sitting back and going like, well, I'm going to work hard and everyone else is going to work hard. It's like you have to also think about the optics. You got to think about how you're supporting and guiding others. And so when we're talking about influence and persuade, there are ways that you'll use your influence to make sure that your staff is performing the way that you want them to. A real easy example I like to give is if I have someone on machines and I know it's possibly, it's an issue that people on machines sometimes don't make enough desserts. They just kind of stand over by machines even though they don't need to. And so I'll go over and I'll have a chat with them about that. And I'll kind of talk about, their strengths, and I'll say, hey, if I know that they're a strong dessert maker and machine person and they're pretty confident, and I'll let them know that. And I'll thank them for being on my shift, that I'm happy that they're there because I know that I can trust them to make desserts throughout their shift rather than standing over at the machines. And so, and it's the way you present it, but I'm trying to influence, persuade them to think in their own head about that and to go like, oh, that is a positive. Okay, yeah, I got you. Let me help you out with that. Yeah, and you'll notice when you do those things, when you give people compliments on things that you don't want to just lie to them, right? If I give someone a compliment on their smile and I tell them I'm excited for my customers to see that smile tonight, I'm not lying to them. I don't have to say it, right? But I want to be able to motivate them and influence them to do the things that we know needs to be done, and it's going to help them out in the long run. So I'm not lying. I'm not tricking them. I'm making sure they know what their positives are. They know who they can be and trying to help them get there. And then obviously getting trust and respect through their actions and words. I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself, and I'm not willing to help and support and do also. And so I'm always going to be there. One of the greatest moments of my life and managing Shivers was when I had a staff on like closing jobs and stuff like that telling me to stop helping them with their closing jobs and go count the money because they didn't want me there any later than I had to be. And that's because I was always supporting them, always putting them first and my jobs second to make sure that they're well taken care of and supported. And to eventually to where they're telling me, no, you go do, we got this. And they would work really hard without me having to even be there. But anyway, so we can kind of continue on. Empathetic. Leaders understand and consider the feelings and perspectives of others, fostering a supportive and inclusive environment. So An empathetic person understands what someone's going through and considers that in the actions that you're going to make, right? So our staff are very dear to us. We want to see them grow. We want to be strict, okay? Because not having rules and regulations and following through on those, if we let things slide, we start creating an atmosphere where the hard workers are punished and the workers that need a new work ethic aren't being trained properly and aren't being guided and led to that. So if they leave Shivers, maybe they don't leave off a better person. Maybe they go into their next job or their career without ever having any, feedback and pushback and guidance on how to grow as a person. And so it ultimately will negatively affect you if you're, too nice, right? You want to be kind, you want to care. It doesn't mean you always have to be nice, but you all have to understand the feelings, perspectives of others so you can approach different things. We'll talk about this communication video of how to understand and get to know your employees while still maintaining the boundary between, management and our regular staff. But you have to be empathetic. You have to not want to just be a boss, right? You have to want to be a leader. And so you're decisive. They make informed decisions confidently, often in challenging situations, and take responsibility for the outcomes. And so when people are looking to you and you can make a decision, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, is that, part of management is you have to make a decision and you have to be able to problem solve. And so, but being a leader is also, you're decisive in that, but you take responsibility for the outcomes. And that's what I expect out of my leaders. I hate sorries. I dislike excuses. What I want is, this is what happened. This decision I made. Obviously the wrong decision, maybe, or maybe I say that was the wrong decision, or maybe, we dropped the ball in that area. This is how I'm going to address that and try to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear, well, it was really busy, or, well, I didn't know that was going on, or, I didn't know they said that, or that was the day shift that didn't do. It's like, okay, yes, I understand. When I took responsibility of the shift, everything on it became my responsibility. I did not plan and manage properly and to be able to take care of that situation. I think this is what I can do next time to do that. And so this is what I'm going to put in place on my future shifts to try to make sure that we can mitigate that from happening again. And so taking responsibility rather than the outcome, rather than saying, oh, it wasn't my fault. Being a leader is taking responsibility. Again, these are the things that I expect, right? Innovative. Leaders encourage creativity and innovation, seeking new ways to solve problems and improve processes. So again, we're growing Shivers. Again, you're stepping into my role on the day-to-day operations, right? So I'm trying to expand Shivers to create more roles and more career opportunities and better pay and be able to reach more, young workers so we can grow them, and reach more communities so we can serve them. And so you're stepping the role of helping that happen on the day-to-day operation. So if we can improve processes, seeking new ways to problem solve, and as well as encouraging our team to be involved in the innovation of Shivers, the growth of Shivers, and the creativity, that is a leader. It's getting people involved, right? That's what this whole thing is about, because you can't do everything on your own. I don't want you to. I want you to watch people grow and get them involved and grow their work ethic, and not try to do everything yourself and stress yourself out. You need to be able to get other people involved. And so when you encourage them to be involved in the innovation and growth of Shivers, then they'll become more attached to Shivers and they'll become more interested in Shivers' success, right? So being a leader is, again, we are inspiring other people, influencing them to achieve a common goal. Again, not tricking them to achieve the goal. We're being an influential person that shows them the way to reach our goal, and you want to inspire them to be able to do that, right? So overall, leader plays a crucial role in motivating and guiding individuals or teams to achieve success, often by setting an example and creating a shared sense of purpose, right? And so this is why when we talk about the communication video, we'll talk about different things that we won't talk about with our staff. Why? Is because we need things outside of Shivers, or people outside of Shivers, that we can, shifts will be stressful, that we can detox from that shift. And it can't be your staff, because we have to have a shared sense of purpose, which is going to be the success of Shivers, right? And the growth of Shivers. And so we have to be able to foster that and cultivate that. But we also have to be involved in ourselves and get down the trenches, right? Be able to not sit back and go, well, I'm a shift leader now. It's like, no, now you actually have more work to do. You are still part of all these roles. I don't want you doing all the stations and trying to do everything on your own, because it's going to be hard to oversee and manage if you are. But there are times as a leader that you will be there. You'll be there with them in the trenches. You'll take care of things that maybe you think like, well, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this, support my staff and take care of them. But as well as taking care of them is also knowing when to say, hey, this is the way it's done, and we're going to do it this way, and there's no other option. Because you want to be kind, you want to care, but you don't have to be nice, because we want to grow Shivers, we want to grow them, and we don't want to negatively affect those who are actively trying to do that and help us do that by letting those who don't want to do it, get away with it. And again, we'll talk about this in the communication video. But so that's essentially the introduction of what a shift leader and a manager is inside Shivers. And so we're going to expand on a lot of these, and we're going to learn a lot of tips and tricks in later videos. So watch the next video of communication, because it's really going to set, these are 2 videos that are really going to set the tone of how you need to carry yourself the next time you walk in your shift. Okay, so if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Comment below if there's anything that you really enjoyed about this video, or think some that stuck out, or something that you think, need to be expanded more on, or even if you disagree with something. We need to be able to push each other, respectively. We need to be able to push, we need to be able to, with respect, help each other learn and grow, and me included. We're all in this learning process together. And so comment, talk to me, whatever you need, and let's help our community and, grow the business and grow our employees, and let's grow ourselves.